So when you picture solar energy, maybe a big solar farm, you probably think, okay, clean power, pretty steady, right? Just soaking up the sun. But what if that picture, that number we often hear, like 100 megawatts, isn't really the full story? What if it's, well, more complicated and maybe even more interesting? Today, we're doing a deep dive based on this really fascinating article from CakeLegal.use's Substack. It's called Solar's Dirty Little Secret: Why Your Rooftop Panels Are Both Better and Worse Than the Specs Suggest. And it uses some great real-world data to give let's take a fresh look at solar performance.
Yeah, and our goal here is really to unpack what's behind those solar capacity numbers because they often get simplified. We want to explore these kind of unexpected challenges with solar variability using actual examples, real data, but also, and this is important, look at the opportunities that this variability actually creates. Trying to keep it engaging, definitely not an engineering textbook field.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. The author points to this core idea, this nameplate capacity. When you hear a 100-megawatt solar farm, what do most people think that means? Probably 100 megawatts, right? Just flowing out.
Right, that's the natural assumption. But that 100 megawatt number, it's a theoretical maximum. Think of it like the top speed listed for a car. It's what the panels could potentially generate, but only under absolutely perfect, ideal lab conditions.
Okay, so perfect means?
It means peak sunshine, like solar noon on a perfectly clear day. The temperature has to be just right, usually quite cool, actually, and the panels have to be spotless. Basically, conditions you almost never get consistently in the real world.
Got it. So the article uses this great analogy. It's like judging a car only by its top speed, say 200 miles an hour, but ignoring that you actually spend almost all your time stuck in traffic, maybe going 30. Your everyday reality is just totally different from that peak number.
Exactly that. And that's why this other metric, the capacity factor, is so crucial. The source material, looking at real data, shows that even if you only look at daylight hours, that 100-megawatt farm, it averages significantly less than 50 megawatts. Specifically, the data points to a 48.1% daylight capacity factor.
Wow. Okay, so right away, that changes things. Less than half its potential, even when the sun is out.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It immediately makes you rethink what 100 megawatts of solar actually delivers over time. It's not static. It's dynamic and average.
Totally shifts the perspective, and that's really just scratching the surface. The article then goes deeper into these three kinds of solar variability that, honestly, most people probably don't think about much.
They really don't. And the first one is, well, it's the one we kind of know.
Yep.
The predictable. Diurnal cycle's obvious, right? Sun comes up, power ramps up, peaks midday-ish, then goes down. Sun sets, power goes to zero.
Right, day and night.
But here's the interesting bit the data highlights. The actual shape of that daily curve. It changes dramatically depending on where you are geographically. It's not the same bell curve everywhere.
Oh, so?
Well, for example, the data showed Arizona gets this really high, sharp peak. It hits like 80% of its potential capacity right at peak sun. But then you look in North Dakota, much lower peak, maybe only around 50%. And Nigeria, surprisingly, even though it's near the equator, it had a broader peak, but lower than Arizona's sharp one. Things like latitude, local weather patterns, haze, they all sculpt that daily output curve.
Huh. And that makes a huge difference practically, right? I mean, if you're designing battery storage or figuring out backup power needs.
Absolutely. You need way different strategies, and the annual numbers really drive it home. Arizona averages about 23.9% capacity factor over the whole year, but 48.1% just during daylight.
Okay.
North Dakota, worse. Only 16.1% annually or 33.3% annually.
Yeah.
Nigeria sits in between, around 22.3% annually, 45.9% in daylight.
So that 100 mil double label means very different things in practice, depending on whether it's in Phoenix or Fargo or Lagos.
You got it. Very different realities.
Okay, so that's the predictable daily rhythm. But then we get into something, well, messier, more chaotic.
Yeah, this is where, as the author puts it, things get wild. It's the chaotic cloud transients. See, clouds aren't just like a dimmer switch slowly turning the sun down. They cause rapid, sometimes really sharp fluctuations.
Wait, how rapid?
The data showed output swinging by, get this, 40% in less than a minute. 40%.
Wow. Okay, that's not gradual.
Not at all. And this is the real headache for grid operators, not the slow sunrise and sunset. You can plan for that. It's these sudden, massive drops. The article mentions things like a 30-megawatt drop on a 100 milliW farm happening in just 100 seconds. That kind of sudden plunge is what can actually destabilize the grid and, cause blackouts if you're not ready for it.
Right, that's like a power plant tripping offline almost instantly. That's a whole different ballgame than just nightfall.
Totally different challenge.
And then there's a third type of variability, One that's maybe less dramatic second to second, but still significant and maybe a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, you could say that this is the sneaky seasonal degradation. And the author suggests it's something the industry maybe doesn't shout about quite as much.
Why is that?
Well, it's about panels getting dirty dust, grime, bird droppings, you name it. And also panels getting hot. These real-world factors, they combine to significantly reduce output over time or between seasons, even if the panel itself isn't broken.
So it's not just about less sun in winter, it's the panel itself performing worse.
Exactly. The source gives this really striking example from Nigeria. They compared data from June, the dry, dusty season, to August, which is early rainy season, maybe washing some dust off but adding humidity. And the average output dropped by a staggering 46%. The capacity factor went from 20.3% down to just 11.0.
46% just from dust and maybe humidity.
Yep. The panels were technically fine, just operating in the real world, not a clean lab, dirty and dealing with humidity.
That feels like a huge hidden performance hit.
It is. And then you add temperature on top of that. See, panels are rated in labs at 25 degrees Celsius, which is like, 77 Fahrenheit? A nice room temperature.
Okay.
But stick a dark panel on a sunny roof, it gets way hotter, easily 45 to 70 degrees Celsius. That's 113 to almost 160 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, definitely hotter than room temp.
And the physics is such that hotter panels are less efficient. The article points out at 45 C, you might already lose 8% output. Get up to 70 C, like maybe in Arizona summer, you could be losing nearly 20% of the panel's potential output just due to heat.
Wow. So between dirt and heat, you're potentially losing a big chunk of expected power, even on a perfectly sunny day.
A significant chunk. The relationship isn't simple. It involves some fairly complex physics, but the bottom line is clear. Temperature and real-world conditions matter a lot, more than the simple rating suggests.
Okay, so you've got these predictable daily cycles, these wild cloud swings, and this sneaky seasonal performance drop. Putting it all together, what does this mean for the people trying to actually manage the power grid? Sounds like a nightmare.
It's definitely a challenge. You could call it the forecasting nightmare. Because, think about it, weather forecasts are actually pretty good now at saying tomorrow will be generally sunny or mostly cloudy.
Right.
But they are, frankly, terrible at predicting the exact timing, the exact location, and the exact thickness or opacity of individual clouds moving across a specific solar farm. And a small difference in cloud cover timing can mean a huge difference in power output for that region.
How bad is the forecast error then?
Well, the data mentioned shows that for a typical 100-megawatt farm, the error in forecasting its output grows quite a bit. Just 1 hour ahead, the error might be around 3 megawatts. Okay, maybe manageable. But look, 48 hours ahead, that error grows to 4.7 megawatts. And the author uses this powerful analogy that uncertainty is like not knowing for sure whether you'll have 3 or maybe 4 major conventional power plants available tomorrow. It's a big swing.
That sounds stressful for grid operators.
It is. And crucially, this isn't just about getting better weather models, though that helps. It's partly a fundamental physics problem. Cloud formation involves chaos theory. You literally can't perfectly predict the long-term evolution of a chaotic system down to the minute details needed.
So perfect solar forecasting is just not really possible beyond a certain point.
Not in the way we might hope. There are inherent limits.
Okay, that paints a pretty challenging picture. But the article doesn't stop there. It actually pivots and says there's a kind of hidden opportunity within all this messiness.
Exactly. This is the positive twist. Because all this variability, all this uncertainty, it creates massive price signals in the electricity market.
Price signals? You mean prices bouncing around?
Bouncing around wildly sometimes. And the key insight is, this isn't necessarily a bug. It's potentially a feature. It's an opportunity.
How so?
The data shared is really striking. It shows how price volatility, how much prices swing, goes way up as you get more solar power on the grid. Like with only 0–10% solar penetration, the standard deviation in hourly prices might be around $12 per megawatt hour. Manageable. But push solar up to 40–50% of the mix. That price volatility jumps to $42 standard deviation. Go even higher. 50–60% solar, it hits $49.
Whoa. So the prices become way less stable, much bigger swing.
Huge swings. We're talking about seeing negative prices like minus $20 per megawatt hour, where they essentially pay you to use electricity. And then maybe later that same day, prices spike to over $200 per megawatt hour.
Okay, negative prices to super high prices all in one day.
It happens, and that's the opportunity.
Right. So if you, maybe as a business or even at home eventually, if you have battery storage, or you can shift when you use energy.
Exactly. If you can store that cheap or even negatively priced power and sell it back or use it when prices are sky high, or if you can just shift your factory's operations or your EV charging to those low price times.
Those wild swings become potential profit. You're arbitraging the volatility.
Precisely. It creates a huge economic incentive for batteries, for smart grids, for demand response programs, all the things that actually help manage the variability in the first place. It turns the problem into a potential moneymaker.
That's a fascinating flip side. So, okay, we've covered a lot. The capacity factor reality, the three types of variability, the forecasting headache, and now this price volatility opportunity. Let's try to boil it down. For you, listening, what are the key practical takeaways from all this? What's the so what?
Yeah, the author helpfully distills it into about 5 core insights, which I think really capture it. First, solar capacity factors are real, they're location-specific, and they're way lower than the nameplate. Remember Arizona at 24% annual, 48% daylight. North Dakota worse, 16% annual. That's the reality you plan around, not 100%.
Got it. Location matters.
Second, it's the rapid cloud transients, not just day-night, that are the real grid stability challenge. Those sudden 40% drops. That's the hard part to manage in real time.
Okay, the sudden shocks.
Third, temperature and seasonal grime are probably costing solar projects 10%, maybe even 20% of their potential output annually. It's this kind of dirty secret because it shows the gap between lab ratings and messy reality. Panels get hot, they get duty.
Right, the real world penalty.
Fourth, forecasting solar output accurately beyond maybe 6 hours out is really, really hard. It bumps up against fundamental physics, the chaos of weather. It's more like educated guessing for day-ahead planning.
The crystal ball is cloudy, literally.
Exactly. And fifth, that resulting price volatility. It's a feature, not just a bug. It creates huge opportunities for anyone who could be flexible with storage, with demand. It's driving innovation.
Okay, so those 5 points really clarify things. So wrapping up our understanding of solar, it feels like the article suggests it's kind of simultaneously better and worse than we might think.
That's a great way to put it. Better because the core technology works incredibly well and the cost has just plummeted, making it a viable major energy source. That's amazing progress. But also worse in the sense that the challenges of integrating it, managing its inherent variability. The clouds, the heat, the forecasting limits, those challenges are perhaps more complex and more profound than maybe the mainstream discussion always acknowledges.
So it's not just plug and play.
Definitely not plug and play at grid scale.
Yeah.
And the absolutely crucial point here is what the author emphasizes. Knowing the true nature of this variability is the essential first step. You have to understand the beast before you can tame it.
Facing the reality, warts and all.
Exactly. You can't engineer solutions or build the right market structures if you're working off an oversimplified picture.
That makes sense. And, if this kind of reality check on energy tech is interesting to you, the author actually teases their next topic at the end of the article. It's called Why Biomass Isn't What You Think. Sounds like another myth-busting dive, looking at things like agricultural waste as maybe an underrated resource and apparently common engineering mistakes and how we try to use it.
Yeah, it sounds like they enjoy digging into the often overlooked technical realities behind energy systems, which is super valuable.
Absolutely. So hopefully this deep dive has shifted your view of solar a bit, maybe away from just a simple static source to something much more dynamic, more nuanced, full of both challenges and these emerging opportunities.
Yeah, because ultimately, if we're serious about tackling the big energy challenges, keeping lights on, making it affordable, and doing it sustainably, we have to start with the facts. We need to embrace the complexity, face the real performance data, even if it's, messier than the glossy brochures might suggest. That's where the truly robust solutions are going to come from.
Well said. And if you want to see the actual graphs, the detailed data breakdown, maybe even look at the code snippets the author provides, we really, really encourage you to check out the original article. You can find it, and likely more great analysis over on the author's Substack at kkk.uz. That's KAYK.uz. Definitely worth the read to go deeper.